Yo, crypto nation and mining family. Crypto nation and mining family. What's going on? Of course, like always, it's not financial advice. Yo, crypto nation and mining family. What's going on out there? So, got some cool stuff in. You guys know that I have some of these squirrels, these BCU 1525s. These things are pretty expensive, just saying. They are cool to operate, but the problem is you don't want to, unless you're immersion mining, you don't want to run these things with the stock coolers on here. They are just not adequate enough. So today we're going to be sitting here basically upgrading to, wait for it, to one of these. So this here is a water block, guys. So I've got the water block with the awesome back plate on here. So aluminum back plate, copper water block on here. So today's tutorial is going to be basically turning this into this. Yo, bam to bam. There are a few things that you're going to need, of course. One, you're going to need a copper water block like this, and then the back plate. These ones that I'm using are from Dimastech. So I'm going to be sitting there and seeing how these hold up. I've never done any kind of custom water looping of any sort, so this will be the first time I dig into something like this. Yo! So without any further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes on this. So the first thing that we're going to be doing, the first thing you're going to need to do, okay, is go to your local hardware store. Let me just switch over the screens. So I've got a few screws with some nuts up on some of them. 6 of them will have nuts on there, and then 6 of them will be just plain screws. If you also notice, there are size differences on these. So the perimeter ones, so the ones that are holding the back plate through, as you can see here, I've got 4 up into the front that have the screws going all the way through with the captive nuts on there, and then 2 at the very bottom corners here also have the nuts up on there. And then down the middle, I have these shorter screws down here because these are going right into the water block, and they do not need to be as long, guys. So I did have to get a kind of a size up on there. The thread pitch is M2.5 on the thread pitch. So keep that in mind that you need an M.2.5, okay? Has to be. You need that thread pitch, otherwise it's not going to thread in. And then from there, it doesn't matter for the perimeter, the 6 perimeters, how long they really are. I would say get them as short as you can, and then you're not dealing with such big material on there. And then the ones in the middle, they need to be a little smaller, of course. And then the other thing is that I will be salvaging some of the pieces off of the screws that hold these down. They all have springs on them. So down the center here, these 6 that I have down the center, I do have the springs sitting on there, because even though these I've tried to get them as small as possible, too small meant that it wouldn't even touch the cooler. Too long meant that a little too long meant that I needed to get the springs up underneath there so that I could take some of the gap up. If this thing doesn't want to make good contact and it starts to get a little hot on me, what I'll end up doing is pulling these off and grinding a couple of the threads off of it, and then using them from that point. Then that should solve the issue altogether. So without any further ado, let's dig into this, guys. So I can go ahead and take the finish block and actually put this off to the side. And we are going to concentrate on this one. So we're going to go ahead and start with taking the back plate off of this first. Going to need a screwdriver, of course. And then the screws that I've got, I ended up couldn't find them in a Phillips, so I've got it as a flathead. So you'll, depending on your situation, will depend on what tool you're going to need from here. So the 4 perimeters, so this one, this one, this one, and this one hold the top cover on. And they're also followed up for being longer screws, because it's got a bracket that sits on top of the PCB that it goes through to get to the cover piece. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull the cover off for you guys so you guys can see that aspect. Super simple. Just taking off of those few little screws there, and the cover should just slide out. There we go. So as you see, it's just a little cover, and you can already see some of the differences of what I've got going on. So let me get this out of the way here. So we have the middle bracket here. That's also got some thermal pads up and through here. And you can see that it also channels in down here, so you'd be able to sit there and get some air pressure through here, or liquid immersion fluid will be able to pass through the stock cooler and keep everything cool. Considering that I'm not doing a stock cooler configuration, we can go ahead and disassemble the rest of this. I'll take off the I/O shield here, or the back plate, because I will be utilizing this back plate onto the PCB like you see here. This way I've got a mounting surface on this. So let's just keep on diving in and taking more stuff off of this. I will not be using this back plate, but there are thermal pads on this back plate that we are going to salvage, as long as everything comes off in one piece, right? So let's go ahead and pull this up. And pull this one up. This one I haven't pulled apart yet, so I have no idea what I'm in store for underneath all of this. And I can feel that it's got the thermal pads. As you can see, thermal pads all over the place on here. And we'll be salvaging a lot of these to go onto the new back plate. So I'm going to carefully put this off to the side. And as you can see, one of the thermal pads actually stayed on the on the PCB, so I should be able to carefully lift that up and place you in the same spot that it was on the back plate, so that I keep everything organized. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pop that cooler off real fast here. Alright, so now the cooler should be free. Now the only thing that'll be holding the cooler on will be thermal pads and the stock thermal paste that they've got on here. There we go. There we go. And I'll definitely be cleaning all of this good stuff off of here. Oh, maybe this was the one that I did open up and the other one was a fresh one. Huh. I don't know. Clean it up a little bit here. I'll clean this one up once I get the bracket the rest of the way off of here. So now you can see how it holds the thermal paste in there. This has actually got some texture to it. What I think they're trying to do is just keep globs of thermal paste in certain areas so that it doesn't just move or whatever. I don't get it why it's not just a machine flat surface, but I am sure they have reasons behind it. I'd have to talk to their engineers to know what the purpose was. So go ahead and put that over here. And we'll go ahead and flip this over one last time because I've got to get these two little screws that are holding the shield on off of here. So I'll go ahead, I'm going to put this into my lap this way I'm not putting any unusual pressure on the PCB when I'm releasing this. Now, I wasn't able to reutilize these screws, but these screws gave me my thread pitch so that I was able to figure out what would actually work on this. Now I'm just taking off the front cover. It's got two little screws up into the very, very front on this. Let me get this in more in the camera view. As you see, I'm just taking off a couple of front shielded screws. And I have my plate. And the next thing we're going to be able to do is carefully lift up this black bracket here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this onto my flat surface. And, whew, comes up quick sometimes, so be careful to catch it. And then as you can see, there's a bunch of thermal pads over this section here. This is where a lot of the power management is being done, so be sure to put the stuff back where it needs to go, guys. So I can go ahead, put you down here. Now I'm just taking these little things and I'm just putting them right back over the modules I pulled them off of. Bam. And I'm just trying to make sure I got all the same coverage that they were going after. It's not hard. It's just a little time consuming. Can be. And if you pull them off, you know, and you got to replace them, I believe these are 1 millimeter. Alright, but bam, just like that. We've got one just hanging out right back here. Got one here that they're covering up. There. We got one up on top here. And smaller little chip modules are the ones that are the hardest to recover up. There we go. Alright, then we get to put back on the bigger chip module ones. Now I'm trying to put them back into the same positions that they came back up off the board. That's why they're covering the same pieces. Bam. Just like that. Alright. And the only other thing I'm going to cover up a little bit here is that there's this bigger chipset here. I'm not sure what that is, but this cooler kind of touches it a little bit. So I'm going to borrow a little bit of thermal pad just to cover this up a little bit. Just like that. Now I know that whatever that is nicely covered. And I can put this off to the side now too. And the next thing is I'm going to clean off the FPGA chip itself. This might have been one that I actually pulled apart already. That might have been the other one that I didn't. The other one was a little neater. Alright. So, that is pretty much ready for the top piece to be put down onto this, which is really nice. Go ahead and make sure that this is nicely lint free. Awesome. And you can see that this plate is machined flat, not unlike the original stock cooler. So, like I said, I don't know why they went with a textured one, but I'm sure there is reasoning behind all of that stuff. So the next thing is to get the pads onto the back plate here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move some stuff out of the way so I can turn this. And now we can sit here and you'll see that there's raised little sections on this. These will correspond with the thermal pads that you're going to need to put onto here. Just like that. Actually, I'm going to do it just the same way they did it, like that. Alright, so I got a couple more of these bad boys. One there, one right there, one right there, got one right there, and one right there. So that's pretty much, yep, that's all of them. Yep. Oh. And then we got one that lays right there. So we're going to go ahead and put that right there. And now we can take this and put this off to the side. Also, no longer necessity to have that. So we can go ahead and start actually putting this thing together, guys. Kind of pay attention to how everything pulled apart on there. We have our 4 screw holes down here, and that corresponds with on the power side. So we're going to go ahead and line up some of these screw holes. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the ones that actually capture the PCB to the back plate here. Oop. Hopefully I'm not going to drop a whole lot here. Now I'm just kind of putting everything finger tight real quick. So this first part I'm just doing right at the very bottom here. I'm doing the outer corners. The inner are being done with the water blocks. So the ones that go right down the middle here are for the water block. So we're gonna do the 2 corners back here, and then there's 4 more up into the front. The front 2 get the rear back plate on here. So we're gonna go ahead and put the back plate onto it now. Around so I can get to it. Alright. There is a reason why I'm not just tightening these down all the way, just in case I got to move anything around to align up the actual water block itself. I've got a little bit of room just to kind of align all the screws. Alright, now I just got to get 2 more of these in place. And of course, guys, whenever you're tightening everything down for that final fitment, don't just sit there and gorilla tighten this stuff down. It's a PCB, it's plastic, and you can easily break it, guys. So, the next thing I'm going to do is these things have little springs on them off of the original, so I'm going to carefully work the springs off of here. Ah, figures. The first ones came off without any issue. These ones are going to be a pain in the butt. Alright. There we go. A little persuasion on them. So I just took the flathead, and there's like a little groove on the bottom of the screw that kind of helps hold the spring from just falling off. I'm just taking a screwdriver and just kind of turning it in there, trying to get it off of that little groove. There we go. Because I'm salvaging this. This is going to this one. Because my stuff didn't come with this cool stuff. Come on. Come on. First one was easy. There we go. When in doubt, just pull harder. Dope. Alright. Those ones are the harder ones to get off. And then I can take two of the lighter weight screws very easily. Just kind of. There we go. There we go. Alright. Bam. And of course, I always take my MX4 thermal compound, non-conductive. You can slather this stuff on anything. Come on. Alright, so I will put a generous amount of this on here. Alright, so now I can carefully lay this down, make sure that this plate's nice and clean, which it is. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and... Now this is where it kind of gets a little fun, so I'm going to have to kind of flip it and hold it at the same time. This is when it gets fun. Because I've got to hold this and get one of these screws started. Bam, just like that. Let's get another one of these bad boys started on here. Don't be afraid if you got to sit there and reset this thing back down. So. Alright. We got two of them started. That means I can let go of it and start sailing the rest of these home. Alright. The last one for the actual FPGA chipset itself. Now for the very rear of this, where I've just got a little bit of a lighter weight screw spring on there. It's just basically holding this stuff to the thermal pads themselves on the power distribution side of it. So it doesn't need to be as hardcore of a spring, so it's the reason why I went after the smaller ones like I did. Alright, bam, just like that. So now, the next step is to tighten the ones that were just for the back plate itself. Now that everything is in, you can either grab a pair of tweezers, a needle nose like I have, and I can just sit there, or you can grab a socket set, depending on what you have available. I didn't feel like going out to the garage to grab this stuff, so I'm going to do this the hard way. And it doesn't have to be all super hardcore tight. Yeah, it's just holding the back plate on. Come on. All right. Last screw. There we go. So bam. That's the front plate on the rear plate on there. There we go. Don't know why that's loose. There we go. But this is on there really nice and tight now. Bam. So now I can actually mount this like you would a graphics card. So Veta frames, you can put this up onto, you can put this into a computer chassis, whatever it may be. So that is 2 of these bad boys that I'll be able to sit there, run them real close to each other with a distro plate in there. I could sit there and get these things to take up so little room. Look at that. Oh, that is amazing. So you definitely want to sit there, get a little bit of breathing room in between the FPGAs no matter what. Let them live life a little bit apart from each other. Reason being on this, guys, reason being is this back plate is aluminum and will get hot. So it's good practice to keep a fan back here blowing on the back plate just to keep everything cool on this. I've seen people go as far as actually putting on CPU coolers onto the back of this to help wick away as much of the heat as quickly as possible. So if you guys got any questions, concerns, or anything like that on how to water block your FPGA or water blocking your GPU also, this is all the same process as water blocking a GPU. So if you guys have any comments or questions, certainly drop them in down below. If you got any other concerns and you'd like to ask me about them directly, links are in down below. You can sit there and join the our Discord, where I'm on there on a daily basis, guys. I pretty much live and breathe on that Discord. Another good way, if you are wanting to kind of help the channel out, help me grab a new equipment to be able to test out for you guys, you can always hop into Patreon. Links are always down below, guys. And you can sit there and become a Patreon member and join late night mining, and that will be supporting both me and my home dog, Crypto Mikkel. So, guys, certainly while you're down there checking out all those awesome links, certainly smash that Lizzie like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and yo, share this with at least one other person that might actually pull some usage out of this. Whether the person is water blocking their GPU or water blocking pretty much anything. A lot of the same process of what I had to go through on this will be done no matter what. So you're detaching this, you're pulling the cooler off, possibly pulling a back plate off so that you can sit there. I mean, like the 1080s from EK, you're pulling off their back plate, you're pulling off the fan assembly, and you're putting their system on there. Corsair is the same way. So, guys, you got any questions, certainly hit me up. I'd love to help. This is the stuff that I love doing, is just modifying and all that good stuff. So, like always, I guess, I'll either see you in the Discords or I'll see you on the next one. Peace.